Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we start commence the program, and here are the following webinar protocol. For each participant ID, please use your real name following with your origin of institution. All of participants are expected to mute the audio and only unmute the video during the event. We cordially invite you to take your own firm and comfort seat in your own room, and please avoid the backlight. Make sure that you have a good and stable internet connection. If you have an earphone or headset, we recommend you to use it so that your voice can clearly and loudly to be heard. During the Q&A discussion session, all participants, please use the chat box to deliver the questions. Thank you for your cooperation and consideration.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we need to wait for 5 more minutes since it's still 15:26. So please stay with us. Thank you. So I think I would like to say hello to Professor Chu. How are you today?
Yes, I'm good, Miss Devi.
Nice to meet you again. So we also have here Miss Vivi. Miss Vivi is our moderator today. So today is your last day join us in R2SEP. It's so sad.
No, we still can work more. See, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully next semester we can have the same session with you.
Okay, let me consider. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So we still have 2 minutes.
How are you, Professor Chu?
Yes, I'm
Good
very
afternoon
good.
to you.
Devi, yes, thank you.
Yes, it was nice to see you here.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm afraid I cannot begin or start earlier because perhaps this is due to the presentation rule. So we need to stay at 15:30. So 2 more minutes. I hope it's
Sure.
okay with everyone.
How are you today, Dr. Xu? Is it
Yes,
hot weather in Malaysia right now?
yeah, I mean, it's a fasting month, I think same as in Indonesia, right? Yeah. So, yeah, everything's still normal. The borders has opened. So you all
Yeah.
can welcome to come and visit us here. Yeah. What about Indonesia? Is it everything good in Indonesia right now? ITS particularly?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And also you
it's
can
getting
visit us
warmer these
in
days.
here. You can
Yeah.
visit Surabaya as well.
Yeah, I've been to Surabaya before, actually. It was 2017, 16, 17. Yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm going to start now. So Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our event today, Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program, or usually we call it R2SEP. Before we start our agenda today, I will read out the important information to all attendants. I think Ms. Novia now already shared the presentation list. Nice. First, please fill the attendance form on the provided link, which will be shared in the Zoom chat room by our committees. The link will be closed in 15 minutes. Second, please fill the feedback form, which will be shared in the Zoom chat room 15 minutes before the session ends, and it will be closed after 1 hour. Third, the attendance and feedback are compulsory for this process. Attendance is mandatory for the new ITS master and doctoral students. Certificate of participation is eligible who have 80% of attendance, and it is for STEM for it, which is eligible for only ITS undergraduate students. Participant who wish to ask question during the Q&A session, please send your question at the provided link in the Zoom chat room, or alternatively, you may raise your hand during the Q&A session to ask your question directly. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program on today, Thursday, 7th April 2022. I'm Dewi from ITS Postgraduate Office, and I will be your Master of Ceremony for this session. Before we start the session, please allow me to inform you on today's agenda. The first agenda is the opening by MC, which will be followed by the introduction to the moderator and also the speaker. After that, we will get to the main agenda, the lecture session, then followed by the Q&A session, and it will be ended with the conclusion and closing. I would like to ask the host to open or share the screen for the PowerPoint. Thank you. Now, I would like to remind you again to fill your attendance form shared through the provided link in the Zoom chat room, which will be closed in 15 minutes from now. Before moving to the next agenda, please allow me to elaborate about today's lecture. Today's lecture theme in R2SEP is about common research methodology in your field. Will be delivered by our speaker, Associate Professor Hun Cheok Chu from University Technical Malaysia Malacca, or we call it BayuTem. And it will be delivered as well by Insinyur Oktaviani Turbaningsih, MT PMP from ITS, who will be the one conducting our session today as our moderator. Let me introduce you to our moderator today. Our moderator today is Insinyur Oktaviani Turbaningsih, MT PMP from ITS. She got her bachelor degree in science in ocean engineering and also master of science in the same area from Institute Technology Bandung. And then she also gets specialist diploma in maritime business management from Singapore Polytechnic. Currently, she is a lecturer in marine transportation engineering major at ITS. She is also an enthusiast researcher in the marine transportation field for offshore and maritime infrastructure development. She also is a project engineer in PMP certificate specialist in project cargo mobilization. Her research interests are flexible and adaptive planning for infrastructure development, project cargo logistic optimization, modular construction development in Indonesia, port and terminal engineering asset management. Without further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. To Miss Vivi as our moderator, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Dewi, for introducing me to the audience. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom and good afternoon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Program. My name is Oktaviani Turbaningsih, but you can call me Vivi, ITS, and I will be your moderator for today's session. Today is the fourth session of this webinar series, aiming to broaden our horizon about research. And today's topic is common research methodology in your field. If you are interested in getting your research done and publication papers getting published, this is the right place for you. And first and foremost, I would like to thank for the postgraduate program at ITS for giving me this opportunity. It's been an honor to me to be a moderator for this event. Now, we are pleased to inform you that we already have Associate Professor Dr. Bunjung Chu from University Technical Malaysia Malacca. It's my pleasure to meet you here, sir. Okay, previously I will have watched your YouTube also for your lecture from the previous session. It helping us to prepare our paper to be ready for the publication as well. Before we come to our main event, let me provide a brief introduction of our speakers. Dr. Bunjung Chu is an associate professor from the Department of Technology Management from Faculty of Technology Management and Technopreneurship, University Technical Malaysia Malacca. He is an expert in technology management, and his research interest is mostly about technology management, renewable energy development, and also deployment, clean technology, innovation introduction, sustainability practices, blue technology, innovation and management, and also the carbon management. I think the research from the research interest of Dr. Chu is very trending these days. So this is such a good opportunity for me to join you in this event. So without any further ado, let me hand over to Dr. Bunjung Chu. Dr. Chu, the time is yours.
Thank you, Engineer Vivi. A very interesting introduction. Thank you, Devi, for this chairing the session. So today I'm going to share with you this talk about this common research methodology in your field. So I would like to share screen here. When I received this topic, honestly, I feel very nervous. Fundamental reason is because, first thing is because this topic will usually take up, if counted by lectures, it will take almost 3 lectures to complete. So I need to make it into 1.5 hours. I have to be Superman. Secondly is, I think I have various background of students over here, I believe. So, but by looking at management aspect, I try to accommodate as much as possible to see the spectrum of qualitative and quantitative. I'm not sure whether, do I have any qualitative guys over here? Anyone that doing qualitative is yes, you give me a like. If it's no, I'm not sure whether should I share it, but I think yes, might be I can do something. Any qualitative researchers over here? Anyone? Yes or no, or mostly of you will be in quantitative perhaps? Okay. Quantitative or qualitative, please? Both? You are using both, is it?
Yeah, we are using both.
Okay,
Suppose.
Sure, sure. I myself is a qualitative guy because I am using it very frequently. By looking at the field of my studies, I'm more can summarize it into environmental management, right? Everything to do with sustainability, environmental. The blue technology over there is talking about water. Because of my first degree, I was graduated under civil engineering. So hydrology, hydraulics, all these are my favorite subjects. So I really like it. And then we are talking about water management over there. And obviously, when you look at my profiles, you know that I'm an environmental guy. I'm a green person. If in to my students, I tell them, saya lebam-lebam, hijau-hijau, lebam-lebam, yeah. So that is the field that I really like. So maybe I can share with you some of it. And obviously, when I need to capture so many of you, I try to make sure that I'm able to provide the most important information. I try to summarize it. Then after that, if let's say that you have anything you want to discuss, you can tell me. As I say, I'm very much doing on qualitative because of the nature of the studies. Environmental studies is still a very new trend and new topics. How are we going to make sure everything is sustainable, achieve the sustainable goals development, and then how are we going to learn with these developed countries, for example, from the Europeans or even from American, Northern American, Japan, Koreans, how are we going to learn from them to become more sustainable, etc., and etc. So that is the natures that puts me over there. Apart from that, I also doing a little bit about quantitative, but definitely not simulation, even though I'll talk to you about simulation. So if you have questions about simulation, then it will become for me, I'll pretend that I do not know about that. Okay, so it's honest revelations to all of you. Right, so first thing first, you do not need to worry. You can always get my materials when you Google BCQ SlideShare. And when you click over here, then you will come to the page where I've already uploaded the slide over here. Okay, so there are a few slides over here. I'll keep it as long as possible before this slide share is closed, because there are lots of memories over here. I have to thank Miss Devi also keep on sharing with me the videos. Yeah, I love the sessions. I love the talk to all of you. It's a precious opportunity for me. Actually, I'm learning much more from you. Not only you are getting from me. Okay, so that is the very fruitful discussion that I have. Okay, right. So to facilitate a good data transmission, I'll definitely will stop my video, and then you can hear my voice behind. Okay, so don't worry, I'm still here. The only thing is you hear my voice so that you can able to concentrate on the presentations that I'm going to share with you. So it's all available at the BCQ SlideShare. Yeah. Okay, right. So when I received this topic, the first thing that I realized is it is a vast topic that I have to cover. But I need to make sure that I'm not going to make you, confused, because when you're looking at methodology, it's not method, because I keep looking at the keywords that have been given. So it's not about research method, but instead of research methodology. So it means that it's a studies about the method. So I need to go back to the fundamental, where we'll discuss a little bit about the research philosophy. I know some of you might not like it, but we have to also know a little bit about it in order for us to at least understand how the research actually capable to generate knowledge for all of us. Okay, so I have IRVV with me and also Miss Devi. Thank you. So research methods, let's talk about research methods. So generally in the discipline of management, I cannot completely say that it's all to all, because I believe there are some of the logistic management, supply chain management, they will utilize also on quantitative as well as simulation, yeah, for them to go through. So if you look at this research method, when we are talking about business or management perspective, then it majorly will be divided into quantitative and qualitative. Okay, so Q is a quantity and L is a quality. So it means that this is all about statistical analysis, where you come up with words, you come up with all sort of numerical data, numerical input and output in order to generate the outcome. Whereas qualitative will mostly utilizing words, yeah, utilizing words for explanation and things. So these two actually, most of the students would start to think, which one would be more superior? Mana satu kah paling hebat, paling canggih? So actually, there's no such things about comparing between which one is easier, which one is more superior, or which one is the, shows you that you know better. No, it's actually how are you going to use it? It depends on a lot of factors or the considerations for you to get into the usage of these methods. So how are you going to choose whether you're going for quantitative or qualitative? You will choose based on the field of your studies. Okay, what is the field of your studies? So as I said to you, some of the field of the studies are more into exploring. Like for example, when my part is I'm keep on exploring how renewable energy, clean technology is going to be invented. For example, I'm looking at many years ago, I'm looking at hybrids. That time it was somewhere around 2012. And after that, I'm looking at how the strategic planning for the transportation, we are working with the city councils. Then after that, right now might be something that we can look at is how far electric cars, So these are the new field of mine. And then it also involves some of you, perhaps, yeah? So some of you. Apart from that, some of your field of study might go for validation or verification. So looking back at how far things has been done, how far things has been successful. So the field of studies will determine your qualitative and quantitative methods. And after that, we'll talk about philosophy. Okay, you like it, but I'll tell you something interestingly, because most of our students nowadays, they are not really want to look at this into for the fundamental understanding. I can promise you that I'm going to share with you is nothing to be too difficult, but definitely by the end of the day, you will start to realize, that is the way that knowledge is being produced. And obviously, there are also 4 types of research design. Which one is for yours, your topic, your questions, and after that, we are talking back on the quantitative or qualitative methods. Okay. So when you look at the field of studies, it is an academic discipline or branch of knowledge. So you're looking here, I think most of us, when we want to find subjects, for our studies, or when we want to submit our papers, our journals, articles, or when we go to library, we want to find books, right? We want to find relevant references. So you found out that the field of studies actually diverse from one and another. And this over here is not, conclusive. It means that the entire list can go on until zoology and so on. Yeah? Studies about animals. So you're starting from accounting, finance, agriculture, and then you get down to social science. And most of you are under engineering trades, right? So these are the field of studies where all of you would have your ability and as well as your strength. Now, remember, when you're doing your research, I always share with my students, yeah, you have to do something that you really like and something that you're really good at. Why? Because doing research is the time that you have to demonstrate your specialization. Ya, keunikan dan juga professionalism. So if you found out that you do not like the subject, you do not like the discipline, then you put yourself in big trouble. Does it make sense? So in such a case, you have to always remember, okay, I have engineering. What types of engineering I want to go for? Is it mechanical? Is it electrical, right? And then after that, you get down further. Yeah, I always share with my students, go to become more and more focused. So from here, this is the field of studies. And then you found out that some of the field have a numerical component in there. For example, accounting and finance, right? Then after that, you also have those that going for numerical, for example, mathematical and statistics. So these type of studies would have prone, ya, kecenderungan, prone to quantitative studies. Whereas you found out that some of it, like for example, you go for languages, right? You go for humanities, and then as well as you go for law, you know. So these are some of the subjects or field of the studies that has the prone ataupun kecenderungan to qualitative words. And then after that, you also found out that there's some of it. For example, you go for engineering, manufacturing, okay? Then you go for diagnostics, you go for medicine, right? And then after that, you go for the other parts like engineering and also engineering trades. This one will utilize combination of both, or as well as the prone, kecenderungan, to go for quantitative studies. So that's why when we are talking about method itself, then the first thing is we can identify through the field of studies. Okay, does it make sense? So naturally it happens in such a way where you can start to think whether your discipline will accommodate qualitative or quantitative. Right, research philosophy. So it refers to the belief and assumption about the development of knowledge. Now you have to understand that go through the research process, we actually try to develop the knowledge. Now, some of us might be just a little bit of knowledge, not too much. Some of us will come up with a totally new knowledge that has a very high novelty. It doesn't matter. But what matters is the research philosophy itself is to refer the belief and assumption about the development of knowledge. Now, I think some of you might realize when you're writing your chapter 1, particularly, you know, you always have the title called scope of the study, scope of the research, or context of the research. So that is the time that you're doing assumptions. Okay, you assume something, you know the limitation of it. So that's where that you know that by the end of the day, the development of the knowledge will refer to the assumption and the limitation that you have made. Example, okay, for research philosophy, talking about beliefs and assumption. So we always think, yeah, okay, for example, might be we think children love to eat sweets. Kanak-kanak suka makan gula-gula, betul? They love to eat sweet things, you know, they have the sweet tooth. They always love to have all these sweet candies, you know, all this ice cream or whatsoever. So that's an assumption that you made. But is it everyone would love it? You are not sure. So by the end of the day, when you develop a knowledge out from there, for example, then you know that the sugary intake for the child, you know, age from, for example, 5 years old until 10 years old, that is also the limitation that you have. And then you do already have the assumptions over there. Then after that, this development of knowledge about sugary intake particularly would be valid for the children between the age of 5 until 10, that you have already made your assumption as well as your context and limitation. And obviously you also can tell, okay, I'm looking at the child, the children, you know, between the age of 5 until 10. I'm not looking at more than that, because more than that, they might behave in a different way. Okay, so you are thinking in such a way. So that's where the belief, you know, you believe and also you make assumption. And after that, you come up with the sugary intakes or sugar intakes for children between 5 to 10 years old. Okay, and then making sure also you have a balance in terms of male and female. Okay, so you have boys and girls who are equal so that you could come up with a conclusion. But if you make a comparative studies between a boy and a girl, right, in terms of sugar intakes, they might give you different types of information. So over here that you know that the assumption itself is start to make yourself understand that the research has its own limitation, its own context, its own setting, its own scope. Okay, so far so good. Now next, we are talking about epistemology. Okay, so I put a formula over here. I put epistemology assumption, okay, plus ontological assumption, and plus a sociological assumption, it would determine the research design. Okay, what is all this logy about? Okay, now let me explain to you. Epistemology tries to tell you is what is acceptable, valid, and legitimate knowledge. Means that those that you really believe that can have scientific evidence to prove it. Aha. So that is the epistemology assumption. I always love to make jokes with my students. I always say that, okay, you have to understand the epistemology assumptions, you need to have the scientific evidence. That's why I always make joke with my students. Those study about paranormal, hantu lah, pocong lah, pontianak lah, you tell me whether you have any scientific evidence. If yes, then the epistemology assumption is accurate and accepted. If it's no, then you do not have scientific evidence, then the epistemology assumption would not be valid and legitimate. Understand? Okay, so how do you think the knowledge can be valid, legitimate, and also acceptable? It has to provide with the scientific evidence. So for example, people will try to tell you, oh, COVID is very dangerous. Yes, tell me scientific evidence. Or Omicron is very quick in spreading. Yes, tell me about the R value as your scientific evidence. Do you get my point right now? So it means that the research itself have to be supported by the scientific evidence. Okay, those things that can claim as a fact. Secondly, ontological assumption. This means about the nature of reality. Now, after we know about the legitimate and also valid information or valid scientific evidence, we also need to understand it has also ontological assumption. The nature of reality. Is it true in some of the social context? There must be a differences between Indonesia and Malaysia, am I right? And then it must be also have a differences between the cities in Jakarta and also Surabaya. Am I right? So these ontological assumptions tells you about the nature of reality. And sometimes it can be very conflicting, And when it is conflicting, it is interesting for us to pursue. Okay, for example, I have over here, resistant to change. Okay, someone who is, stubborn, do not like to change. Is it a good or bad in managing organization? So for example, you have a leaders, he is your CEO, he's very experienced, but he does not like any changes. He dislikes changes. So is it good or bad for managing an organization? The questions. So over here, the resistance to change can bring good and bad, am I right? Under what ontological assumption? Under the reality of this management style. So this is the one that has to be based on the reality, the situation, scenario yang betul-betul. Okay, you can talk a lot about, I have overcome some of the very good topic previously when I was with this technical writing with some of your S3 students. Epistemology assumption mentioned that the blood bank has to be functioned properly in Indonesia so that the patient capable to get blood donated and it save lives. But ontological assumptions start to tell different locations might have different challenges. Am I right? Different location has different challenges. Okay, so that is the one also we call as a nature of reality. Okay, plus axiological assumption. Axiological assumption is you have to do with the values, the ethics. Why do you want to do this research? Very quickly, sometimes when people ask me, Chu, why do you want to do environmental management? Why do you want to do all this blue technology, carbon? Why do you want to do renewable? Okay, because I have the value of sustainability and environmental protection, I tell them. So that is the value. That's the ethics that you want to do. So for example, just now for the blood supply, the value is saving lives. For those that doing, for example, marine coastal protection, because you want to save the life and the properties. For those who are doing marketing, because you want to bring the wealth creation values. For those who are doing on manufacturing, because you want to enhance the efficiency, the values. So do you see this tree will determine the research design? Interesting, right? So it's not as difficult as you think, I hope. That's the way that I can, simplify it for you to understand. So in such a case that research design has to have three elements over there: epistemology, which is the scientific evidence. You cannot just keep on telling me how do you feel, right? You have to really, reveal, your scientific evidence in your research. And ontological assumption. What is the reality of yours? You can't compare Indonesia with Western companies because they have totally different organizational culture. You can't compare it because they have a different background, different historical situation. So that's where they call the nature of reality. And finally, you're looking at asiology is the values and the ethics that you want to bring. So asiology basically is the one that you will always tell that the contribution of your research. Oh, I want to increase efficiency. I want to increase productivity. I want to save life. I want to protect environment. I want to extend sustainability. I want to make sure the market is going to be enhanced, enlarged because from the product. I want to separate the moral values, the Islamic value. Everything is all under asiology. Okay, so why do you choose this research topic? It is not the answer of, because I like it, but the answer of what values that you are trying to bring. So I'm giving you a table, okay, over here. I summarize it into three assumption types, which is ontology, epistemology, and osiology. And I have the questions for you to reflect, tanyakan diri sendiri. Okay, under the research philosophy, no matter you are engineering or you are social science or whatever fields that you have, you will try to comply these three. That's why this is a difficult one if you don't understand, but once you get it, then you found out that it become very interesting. So as I mentioned that ontology is something about the reality, the situations. So what is the nature of reality? Okay, the organization, what type of businesses or services? How many employees over there? 2,000. Is it employees only Indonesian or is it as international staff? So that is the nature reality. What is the world like? What is a company like? Okay, so what are the organization like? What is going to be in an organization? Do you feel motivated? Do you feel that you're happy over here? Do you feel the teamwork? What is like being a manager or being managed? How do you feel if you're being a manager? Or how do you feel if you have become a staff, right? So over here, you are looking at two sets of extreme, means that objectivism and subjectivism. Now, objectivism means that those that looking into positivists, that you're looking from the data itself, that you distance yourself from there. Subjectivism are those that you understand how it works and you do not listen. Instead, you involve yourself over there. So for realism, it's going to be the real, it is external because you are thinking about one true reality, and this is about things, about others. Whereas subjectivism, when we're looking at ontology, those people who are going for quantitative or qualitative, I can try to relate in such a way. This is the one that dedicate by convention, the way that you do, socially constructed. What does it mean by this? Yeah, what does it mean by that? Okay, so I remember some of the words I always say to my students. I say, there are some of the words I might not really well, if I talk in Bahasa, it might bring another meaning for Indonesian students. So please forgive me if my meaning is not correct, I tell you like that. So sometimes you can understand, okay, socially constructed, it gives you different type of meaning. For example, I remember, a seronok, in Indonesia and Malaysia is different, right? Seronok is different. And after that, pening kepala, is different. It tells you the different socially constructed meaning. And obviously, it's not only one true reality. You have to get a few realities. Perhaps over here you found out that for female, they think in this way. For male, they think in this way. Make sense? And after that, you're following on the process. And somehow it is chaotic because you're looking at the complexity of it. Okay? So ontology, the reality. Objectivism means that you're looking yourself as the distance researcher, positivist. Subjectivism, you understand from it. You understand, you try to make sense. What happens, you know? What are these things that has been happened? So objectivism, example, you studies about the COVID cases, you know, in Indonesia, you collect the statistical data. Subjectivism, you try to understand the pain and the suffer of these COVID patients and what happens to their life, what happens to their income, what happens to their family relationship. So these two, even under the COVID topics, give you different objectivism and subjectivism. So far, so good. If you have questions, you can ask me anytime, or you can put on the chat box later on. I can try to answer. Okay, epistemology. As I mentioned, has to be driven by scientific evidence. So you cannot just say, according to my opinion, yes, this is how I feel, yes, but where is the scientific evidence? So how can we know what we know? Is it true? You know, in Malaysia, there's a lot of fake news, you know, it's a lot of fake news. And the social media utilizing, you know, being utilized as the channel to spread all those fake news, berita palsu. You know, suddenly they tell you there's got, you know, something happens where it is not. So how do we know what we know? Where is the fact? How do we know it is correct? What is considered acceptable knowledge? Then after that, what constitutes good quality data? Do you ask yourself about that? I think you do, right? How do I know that this respondent or these people give me the right information? You always ask yourself. Epistemology. So that is the way that you need to have scientific to back up your work. What kind of contribution knowledge can be made? Is it you just want to have a fundamental understanding, or you are thinking about solving problems? So over here, you found out that under the objectivism, this is assumption of the nature scientists, okay? So those that were studying about engineering, biology, physics, chemistry, they are distant themselves because they do not need to understand the meaning of it because everything has the universalism, correct? When we're talking about H2O, it is water. You don't interpret H2O as something else. So that is the nature scientist. It's all talking about facts, about numbers, and you observe like a law-like generalization. So you know, okay, water is important, H2O after electrolysis, it can produce oxygen and hydrogen because of right? Epistemology under the objectivism. Whereas for subjectivism, it looks into different aspects. Assumption and the arts and humanities. It has an opinion, it has a narratives. Perhaps over here when we're talking about H2O, for subjectivism people, they will tell different things. They will tell you, oh, water nurturing, water save lives, water try to help plants to grow, water the most important elements in the world, So you can find out that they start to give their opinion and narratives and then their meaning on it. You know, so the meaning of water right now start to become socially constructed or subjectivism. So it all depends on individual and context or specific situation. Okay, so far so good on the epistemology, right? So even we talk about the things, the feelings and things, we also need to have the scientific evidence to back it. Okay, so some of the theory might tell you, yes, water indeed save life, water to cleanse, right? For Muslim, water is to cleanse, you know, right before you pray. You know, for Buddhists, water is going to do for cleansing as well. So there are some of the similarities, you know, by meaning of different types of individual and also the specific context. So last one, we're talking about axiology, your values. What is the contribution of your work? So most of the time when we do research or when we're writing articles, we are talking about the values. So over here, what is the values in the research? Okay, how are we going to treat our own values when we do research? Do you believe in something? You know, to me, because I'm a green person, I drive hybrid cars, yes. I do recycling, yes. I utilizing paperless, that's why I give you everything on SlideShare, yes. I use energy LED bulb, yes, I do. I save paper, yes. I buy more environmental product, yes. I don't take packaging food because I bring my own container. You know, my container made of glass and also steel. You know, macam cawan mangkok bertingkat, you know. So I have my values. That's why it matched with the discipline and the interest that I'm doing. So for example, I believe, you know, for example, at RVV, she's doing on coastal, right, on maritime. I think she loves oceans, perhaps. You know, maybe she was thinking about, yes, I would love to have, you know, other dimensions of how people utilizing ocean or maritime in order to trade. I think she would have some values about that. And when we further down to your research, every one of you would definitely have some values in yourself. You might be thinking about Islamic, you might be thinking about halal, you might be thinking about the love, the care, helping vulnerable people, helping elderly people, save life. Yes, the value. And how do we deal with the value of research participants? Does the research participant have a similar value like us? That is also one of the things that we can go through, you know. Should we thinking about saving animals after the first stage? Yeah. You know, those that dogs and cats, you know, that running on the street, yeah. You know, yang berkeliaran itu, should we save them? Some of them will say, no, we should not save them. We have to kill them. And some of them, no, we have to save them. So do you have any contradictions in terms of the values? So in such a case, objectivism is very free and detached. They only need to understand what are the things because they come up with a universal true reality. Whereas for subjectivism, we are value bonds. You know, we empathize on people sharing. We empathize, we understand what people are talking. You know, sometimes when you're looking at, you know, some people, for example, you go to the factory and the manager say, oh, I'm making my company, you know, famous. Well, for example, you go to ITS, you talk to your lecturer will say, you know, I would like to make my students successful. So what does it mean by the value? The value means that motivated. And he look after young generations. So that's a value that bonded. Okay. So over here, I hope that I have summarized nicely to all of you, at least, you know, some understanding. Yeah, hopefully later on you tell me whether have I got you into the right understanding about research philosophy. So it's about the belief and assumptions, the development of the knowledge. And it has three elements: epistemology, which is talking about the valid and legitimate knowledge. How do you know your knowledge is valid and true? You have to back up with scientific evidence. How do you know about ontological assumption is true, about the nature of reality? Because this one could be different, okay? That's why your studies, blood bank you can do in Indonesia, blood bank I can do in Malaysia, blood bank I can do in India, I can do elsewhere because of the nature of reality is different. And of course, the astrological values, you know, the values that we want to have it. All of these will determine the research design. So far, so good, guys. I hope that you have got something from me. Okay, right. Third, we go for our research design. I'm not sure whether, you know, you still remember from here, right? As I mentioned, determine the research design. Okay, so that's why we come to the third part, which is the research design. So most of you, when you do your research method chapter 3, you always need to write out about research design. Am I right? So it's about the general plan of how are you going to answer your research questions. It will have objective. It will also tell people how you're going to get your data. Is it you are going to interview people, or you want to do survey, or you want to depends on documents? You know, all of these will be the data. And then how are you to collect and also analyze this data? Also, somehow you also might, you know, want to talk about any kind of ethical issues or any kind of constraints that you face. Okay, for example, you might have constraint about the data accession. You might find out that time is too much, you know, spent during the pandemic time, or location might be too far. You know, all of these will become the constraint for you. Okay, and that is what I call as a general plan about answer your questions. It has objective. It also tells you where you get your data, how you collect it, how you analyze it, what are the issues that you found, and what are the constraints that you have. 4 types of research design. Not sure whether have you known this before, but if not, then let's go through it again. So some of you might under exploratory research, when you have so little data, you do not know about it. So that's why you need to do exploratory research. So for example, you are thinking about 5G, okay? We are all talking about 5G. How does the 5G looks like when you implement in teaching? Well, that is also not much being known, am I right? So we are going to have very little data. That's why we're doing on our exploratory research. Okay, so it provides insight into a specific topic. Okay. Second one is descriptive. Those things that you already, known, currently happen or past research phenomena. So you see, before this, in year 2020, when COVID first detected, it was considered under the exploratory research. All the scientists, trying to understand what is the DNA, what is the elements, of this COVID virus, and why is it being constructed in this way? How is a spike protein, blah, blah, blah. Then after that, they conducted in-depth studies. Then after that, they come up with a vaccine. So all of us, we got vaccinated until now, correct? So during that time, very little data, they go for exploratory. But right now, I think you all can do descriptive research, correct? You already know it happens right now or happens before. For example, how far COVID brings economic turmoils for Indonesia. How COVID has impacted all of us. How COVID have changed our life. You see, COVID changed our life indeed. Last time I need to travel to Surabaya for the sake of deliver one lecture, then I go back, Then after that, I start to think, this is time consuming, this is resources consuming, and then I create many carbon footprints. I create more carbon because I need to fly to Surabaya. So why not we utilize online? As long as we have a stable online internet connectivity, then we can do it. See? So it seems like I'm talking in front of you, All of you just get the knowledge from me within 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Then after that, when I switch off, I found out that, okay, I just came back from Indonesia, ITS Surabaya. So do you see the descriptive research is something that happened now or happened in the past? You are looking at getting informations, you're getting at the attributes or theme or the interest for the research. So that is the way that you go through the descriptive. Explanatory is you are looking at causal relationship. One event caused another. Okay, for example, I'm eating a lot of supper at night time. Of course, my weight will gain. Ya, saya semakin berat sebab saya makan banyak supper, makan malam. Pukul 12 saya makan banyak-banyak, maka saya jadi berat, saya jadi gemuk lah. So that is the causal relationship. Okay, so for example, I do more exercise. My blood pressure will get reduced. Semakin banyak saya bersenam, maka tekanan darah saya sedang menurun. Yeah? So that is the explanatory, where you're trying to look at the variables, how you're going to relate these variables together. And finally, the fourth one that we call is evaluated research is we want to find out how well something works. How is it going to be if we do this or we do that? So that is an evaluated research. So for example, today we say that, okay, I found out that I have already done this. Okay, what if, I put AI into my manufacturing, would it become better or become worse? Okay, better in terms of what? Performance. Worse, then I need to take out a lot of people from the job. So people might be unemployed. So that is the evaluative research that you are doing. Okay, so far so good about the research design. So over here, I give you a few questions about this, where we can look at exploratory, descriptive, and also explanatory. So exploratory, key variables not defined because of little data. Descriptive, key variables are defined. Okay. Explanatory, key variables are defined and the relationship are defined. So you know that, impossible, yeah. If you eat a lot of fast food or you eat a lot of supper, you still can very slim. It's impossible. Okay, you definitely will gain some weight, right? So the situation under exploratory. So quality of service is declining. We do not know why. Kenapa kita punya quality service itu semakin menurun, tapi kita tak tahu kenapa dia menurun. Is it because of people not happy with it? Is it because our employee is not helpful? Would it be people interested in our new product idea, for example? Okay. Today we know that we already have a lot of fried chicken, yeah? Betul? Banyak fried chicken. Okay, so we have a taste, a Thai, curry, crunchy, right? Can we have durian mixed with the fried chicken? Okay, durian fried chicken. So do you think that people will love our durian fried chicken? That is the question. We do not know. And how important business is process re-engineering as a strategy? So that is also the questions that we would like to find out the answer. Descriptive. What has been the trend in organization downsizing over the past 10 years? Companies getting bigger and bigger in terms of the size, the structure, the resources, but you found out that people are getting lesser and lesser because automations, computerizations all are coming to the company operation. So what has been the trend in organization downsizing? Questions. The last year product recall have an impact on our company share prices. For example, Toyota, in somewhere to 2016, 17, I can't remember precisely. So they have a product recall for their cars. Do they have any problem on their company shares? Yep. And has any average merger rate for financial institution increased in the past decade? Is there any banks in Indonesia that go for merger acquisition, combine together, joint venture to become bigger? Okay. And last one, explanatory. Which of the two training programs is more effective? So you know that the training, and then which one is more effective? Can I predict the value of energy stock? Okay. If I know the current dividend and growth rate of the dividend, can I predict the price? Okay. Do buyers prefer our product in new packaging? So that is the explanatory research questions, right? So that is there's examples that you have from the research design. Number 4, research topics. Okay, so which type of research you're conducting? Are you conducting a basic one or an applied one? So then applied one will improve the understanding of a particular problem. You face a problem right now, so you want to have an applied research to provide solutions to the problem. And you're trying to find a practical relevance and value for the organization. For example, you found out that when you're in your studies right now, because everything is conducted online, you have the problem about working with people. You do not able to conduct teamwork. You do not able to work with the team group projects because you are studying alone at your home. So how are we going to improve this type of problems? So we provide solutions on that. So that is what we call as the applied research. Whereas on basic research, then you found out that this is the one that you are going to have expand your basic or fundamental understanding. Okay? So how do you know about this? So you are going for universal principles. Your studies about biology, your studies about physics, about chemistry, your studies about materials, you study about life science. You are getting to understand about the basic and fundamental knowledge. And the value is you want to bring benefits to the society as a whole. Okay, so that is about the research topic. And this both also will determine which type of methods that you're going to use. And the next one is research question. So most of you already have research question, then you know that it's important for you to express it. And you need to say what is the issue or problem that you wish to study. What is your project will seek to find out? You want to get the explanation and you want to get the answer. One of the criteria that determine whether your project is success, remember, if you have answered the research question and you develop a set of clear conclusion in your chapter 5 or section 5. So once you have answered the research question, you can come up with a good conclusion. Then fundamentally, I would say, you have already successfully achieved your research, okay, or complete your research. And obviously, this research question also will guide you in terms of literature review, your research design again, your data collection, your data accession, and also your data analysis. Okay, so when I show you just now, so you can see why we have to reach research method is because it's determined by a lot of factors. Your field of your studies, as I mentioned, finance, mathematics, you definitely need to deal with quantitative, numerical, law, language, you need to deal with, prone, kecenderungan to qualitative. Your research philosophy, remember, epistemology plus ontology plus axiology will determine your research design. Your research design, you have 4 types, right? Exploratory, descriptive, explanatory, and after that, evaluative. Your topic, is it your topic about the basic research or you're going for the applied research? And your research questions definitely will determine your literature review, your research design again, your data, how you're going to collect, how you're going to analyze. And all of these, 1 until 5, will determine what you call as the methodological choices. Okay, so welcome to the last part. We are talking about methodological choices. So you know that quantitative is about quantities. That's why it's a numbers. And qualitative is about the words because it needs to describe, you need to explain. Can we mix them both? Yes, you can. You can mix them both together. So under this diagram, then you start to realize methodological choices have 3 types: quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method. So under qualitative, they have mono and multiple method. Mono means that single method. For example, under quantitative, you're utilizing survey, okay? But quantitative research design, you want to have multiple method. Maybe you want to do survey, okay? And also you also want to do experimental, okay? So that is the way that you are mixing them both. Qualitative, mono method, maybe you want to interview. Multiple methods, maybe you're thinking about interview and as well as you want to study documents. Okay, so content analysis. So that is the multi-method. Mixed method, you can go for a simple mixed method by looking at quantitative mixed with qualitative, or you can go for the complex situation. Complex situation where you are looking at how are you going to mix them all together. Okay, right. So let me explain a little bit about quantitative. So researcher is seen as independent, right? You remember objectivism. Taking part usually refer to the respondents, is designed to discipline the relationship between variables. Either you're making into a descriptive analysis or inferential statistical analysis, or might you want to do simulations. Yeah? Then after that, often use probable sampling to ensure generalizability. The method is rigorous, defined, and highly structured. So you collect the result in numerical and standardized data. You analyze the conduct through the use of statistic, diagram, software, okay, simulation, and resulting meaning derives from numbers. 100% means that perfect. 0% means that poor. So you can see it in this way. Qualitative, those that utilizing words. So you know that you are not being independent, means that you are detached. You are kind of connected with the respondent. The respondent tell you, oh, I'm very painful, because I got COVID, and my parents, they got COVID, one of them passed away. So you start to feel, oh, the empathy, the feeling, all of this. So you are not independent from them. You can start to comprehend, faham situasi mereka. Those taking part refer as a participants or informants. So they gives you meaning and associated relationship. So just now I gave you the sentence, oh, I feel painful, sakit, derita, sakit and derita in Indonesia on Bahasa Melayu, they give different meanings. Hampa, sakit, derita, it gives you different meanings. Am I right? So attributes the meaning over here. Okay, and after that, usually non-probability sampling techniques. The meaning expressed through words. See, I mentioned to you, spoken contextual images. A method used to collect data are unstructured or semi-structured. So it's non-standardized data, go through the use of conceptualization. How do you conceptualize the meaning of it? Then after that, resulting meaning derived from words or spoken text and images. Okay, so the wonderful of quantitative and qualitative. Can I mix them? Yes, you can. You can conduct concurrent, means that you can mix at the same time quantitative and qualitative that can run parallelly together. Can I make it as a sequence? Yes. You can start with qualitative first, and after that you can do quantitative, no problem. Or you might want to do quantitative first, and after that do qualitative, no problem. Can I have sequential multi-phases? Yes. You can do qualitative first, then quantitative later, then after that you do your quantitative again. So that's why the mixed method is the combination of both qualitative and quantitative method. The scenario that I'm sharing with you is how it happens. But fundamental question is, why do you want to do mixed method? Kenapa? You cannot tell me just you want to do it because you want to do it. It must have the reason, am I right? So I give you a text for you to understand mixed method over here. So I read it out. You can start to comprehend, pahamkan. So Andreas conducted research into organizational change in an IT company using a mixed method research design. This was designed as a sequential mixed method research and consider 4 stages, sequential. Okay, so it means that they got step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. First, they want to do initial exploratory. So why? Because they want to know from the senior manager, combine the purposes of helping to negotiate accession, get into the data, agree the scope of the project, get the contextual data. So this is analyzed qualitatively in order to get a picture of important internal and external organizational issues. Correct? So when you go into the company today, for example, you want to go to Garuda, for example, you want to know, what are the problems that they're facing right now? The borders are open. The COVID is still there, even though it's called as an endemic. And then you have people who has not fully vaccinated, people who are halfly vaccinated. So how are you going to deal with it? So the first initial exploratory discussion, you go through qualitative. Second one, you conduct individual in-depth interviews with 28 employed staff. Okay. And after that, you want to understand, analyze qualitatively because you want to understand the issues. You want to inform the content of the questionnaire. So after you understand, they will tell you, oh, right now, security become a problem. Public health become a problem. And after that, if we're too strict, then we cannot make money from there. If we cannot have a full carriage for the airplane, we lost money. So these are the key words for you to understand the content of the questionnaire as well as what you want to investigate next. Third, you design the questionnaire. And after that, you conduct a pilot test. So you go for the representative samples, okay, for 42% of response rate. The quantitative data analyzed statistically so that you allow the view of the employee groups to be compared for different age, gender, length of services, occupational, and grade. So once you already talk to the people, right now about, as I mentioned just now, the security, the public health, the profitability, and then we talk to the other people. So this one, you launch a survey, and then you got from quantitative. And finally, you go for the presentation, the group of complaints. So the assigned employee to question to be answered with care. You want them to tell you any additional things, any additional suggestions. The public health, how we can do. There are so many apps in the world that tells people about COVID vaccination. In Malaysia, we're using MySejahtera. In Indonesia, you're using what apps? So they're totally so many different apps, so many different types of verification. Which one we should use? Can we recognize each other? That are the things that we have to go for qualitative. Okay. So over here, you found out that it started with qualitative, third quantitative, then finally gets back to qualitative. So as seen as that a sequential multiple phases where you can have mixture in terms of different methods. Okay. Now, why do we need to do mixed method? Okay. Most of you, I think you have to understand that it has the reason. Kenapa kita mau membuatkan mixed method? First one is initiation. Like just now, yeah? You utilize qualitative first, then you understand that only you go for a survey quantitative because this gives you a better understanding. Second one, facilitation, okay? Means that you have one method, then you discover another new insight. Apa-apa benda baru, you know, that you want to find out from that. Complementary, saling menyokong di antara satu sama lain. So you are helping one and another to elaborate, to enhance, clarify, or confirm. Interpret. Okay, perhaps you found out that one, like for example, qualitative, explain, okay, the reason of why and how, whereas the quantitative affirm the relationship. So you interpret. Generalizability means that you're utilizing it in order for you to get the establishment, because you have to know qualitative has a difficulty to achieve generalizability. So you have quantitative in order to help you. Diversity, okay, so you can get both information. Okay, after you ask people about the satisfaction, you know, they take the plane from Garuda. After that, you ask the question about what can be improved. So these are the one that we call diversity. Then you can able to get more and more information. Okay, the views. Problem solving, sometimes you need to have numbers to tell you, you know. So for example, if you tell people, oh, this company has financial difficulty, then you explain, it is very, 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 very difficult. Then people will ask you, how difficult is very, very, very difficult? So maybe you need to say, oh, their bad debt ratio has become many percent. Another employees left the job right now. From 100% of employees right now, only left 20% of them still surviving there. And these 20%, they have not paid their salary for 3 months. So these are the figures, quantitative figures, to tell how terrible or how serious the financial debt of a company. Yeah. Trying focus means that you are trying to look at the methods. Okay, how are you going to have another data to help you to remain focused? And triangulate means that you are trying to have the combination of data to make sure that the findings is correct. And after that, you also have more confidence because both types of method will give you better view and better findings. Right. So the last part that I would like to talk is about simulation. Okay, my last 2 slides. This one is I have not involved in it as the main researcher, but I did try to work with some of my colleagues, particularly they're doing on supply chain. So they are doing some modeling simulations. Yeah. So I involved as a co-researcher. So that's why this is not my major expertise. I have to be very honest to you, okay? Because every one of us have limitation and have our own strength. But simulation is the one that you have to imitate of something real, okay, representing certain characteristics of the behavior on a selected or abstract system. So what are the advantages? Okay, because you know the real world that we have right now is very complex. And it says stochastic elements that cannot be accurately described by mathematical model. It is not as simply as y equivalent to mx plus c. You know? So that's why we use simulation is the way that we can do investigation. And simulation allows one estimated of performance of an existing system to undergo some projected of operating conditions. So if let's say like I require 4 M's into my operation, materials, manpower, machinery, and money. If I do not have enough materials, what would be happens on my output? So that is a simulation that allows estimation of performance. Or maybe you want to propose an alternative systems that can be compared via simulations that can meet the specific requirement. So I have 4 M just now, right? So I have manpower, machinery, material, and also money. What about if, you know, I put into new methods? Okay, for example, I utilize Western method to do our manufacturing. I do not want to do or utilizing Asian's method, what would happen? Now, for example, I do not want to utilize Japanese method. I do not want to utilize Kaizen. I do not want to utilize TQM whatsoever. I want to utilize new method from the Western. So would it be another alternative proposed systems? In simulation, we can maintain much better control over experimental condition, and it allows us to study a system with a long time framework. Okay, so for example, for a period of time, or to study the detail of AI manufacturing system. What are the disadvantages? Okay, because the model produces only estimates of the true characteristic of particular set of input parameters. So whatever you put in as your input, it will generate certain kinds of output. Simple as that. And simulation models are very expensive, and also it takes time to develop. And if a model is not valid, okay, no matter how sophisticated it's going to be, the simulation result will provide useless or little useful information about the actual system. Okay, so that's why simulations, if it's not valid, no matter how impressive is it, it's not going to be helpful. So some of the studies utilize both simulation and also analytical model. And I think this is useful. And obviously another way that they're looking at is they have an analytical model that can suggest reasonable alternative. What can you do? What you should do in order to conduct a simulation studies. Okay. So last but not least, I'll show you the end of my studies, this research onion. So you can see over here is you are towards to the data collection and analysis. Then you started with the philosophy first. Okay, I'll talk to you only about the epistemology, ontology, and sociology. I have not get into the different types yet. But definitely you know that just now, we're mostly talking about positivists and also interpretivists, right? So this is the one that you detach yourself, you stay yourself as an independent researcher. This is the one that you understand what is the meaning told by your respondent. You understand the social context of it. Then after that is obviously it has deduction, abduction, induction, mono methods or multiple methods. Then after that you have your strategy, cross-sectional, and finally this will determine your method for data collection and data analysis. Okay, so with that, I hope that I would like to conclude. What we have learned so far, we are not talking about tools. Instead, we are talking about common research methodology, okay, according to the title that being assigned today. That's why we start to understand both qualitative, quantitative, or you want to mix them together. It will depend on the field of your studies, the research philosophy, the design, the topic, research question, and finally will determine the choices of qualitative, quantitative, or mixing them both. Okay, so with that, I thanks for your attention. It's a well spent, I hope that's a well spent session that we have gone through some discussion, and I open for any questions afterwards, and I'm happy to share with you my thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Dr. Chu for giving us such an informative and also amazing explanation. I think I learned a lot about the research methodology, both for qualitative, quantitative, and also mixed method research. And actually, now we already come to the question and answer session. And at the chat box, actually, we have one question related on how to create a good journal, because based on our experience, we are getting confused at the beginning. What should we do first, doing the introduction of our journal, or preparing the suitable research methodology first? I think we need some of your guidance, because after we saw your presentation, choosing the right methodology will be leading a better journal or the better research. So what will you suggest when we are preparing research or preparing a paper? Should we deciding, or should we start from the introduction first when we are writing the paper, or from the research methodology at the beginning?
Okay, so I think there are basically two types of publication that you like to generate. The first one is when you're talking the articles, and the second one you're talking about your thesis. That's why you want to generate your research. Yeah, you want to document your research. I would personally think that it's either can be both way. See, because it really depends, as I say, it really depends on the your studies, your field of your studies, as well as your research design. And then you know the research design, you have four types, right? You have exploratory, where you hardly to know anything. Then you also have those that you also already know about it, you know, for example, explanatory. And if you want to evaluate, it's called evaluative and so on. I would say that if you have a very clear decision in your mind, you can go for introduction and the method, it doesn't really matter. But if you are still very new for your research, for example, you are just started your journey, right, for your master's or your PhD, then I think in order to make sure that you have a good idea, you should come up with a proper research idea by tangifying, writing it down in introduction first. It will help you a lot for your formulation. Because I believe introduction chapters or introduction section, you would have your research problem, you have your research questions, right? And your research objectives. So when you have these three elements stable down, then you're able to see what are the next stage of the method that you like to apply and also implement. That's my general advice to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Chiu. Maybe I would like to ask the audience to use the feature right hands to ask the question directly.
Yes, please.
To our speaker.
Do you like the research philosophy? Is it okay for you to understand or difficult?
The research philosophy. Yes, actually related to the research philosophy as well. Maybe any other want to ask a question first? Well, we go through the philosophy.
Yes, any question? Today is my last lecture, please.
Actually related to the research about the basic or pure research and also the applied research. That one will be about two different type of idea. One is for the study why this one is happening, and one is one to improve on the system. Actually, based on your guide, based on your experience, if as a master degree or maybe a doctorate student, what should we do if we are maybe not really expert on the practical knowledge, but we want to do the applied research? What should we do to proceed with that? And as well as if we are coming from the practical field, maybe some of our postgraduate students are already practitioner on or expert on their industry, but they want to pursue their research on the pure research or basic research. What should I think? What will be your suggestion for us on that part?
Okay, I think you know, every one of us have our discipline. You know, I believe. You know, when you are talking about those basic science, you know, for example, social science, sociology, you are talking about biology, chemistry, physics, or even studies about the, you know, astrology. So these are mostly about fundamental understanding. So you are expanding your fundamental understanding, how does it work, and so on. And of course, those that would love to have application, right? You want to solve the problems, then you would like to pursue for the applied research. I would say that it is okay for both sides, you know, those that practitioners want to get back to the basic, or even, you know, basic people would like to go for applied. I give you one very interesting examples. I have students who are doing on agriculture, right? So his jobs is actually try to maximize, the agriculture's product, for example, melons. And then he knows there's a lot of factors that will influence the sweetness of the melon. Yeah, buah-buah melon, tembikai or whatsoever. You found out that if the watermelon tembikai is not tasty, not sweet enough, it usually would not be purchased by the people, by the customers, because people don't like tasteless. People like it to be sweet. But sweet tembikai, sweet melons, always invite all these, bugs, seranggas, okay, try to become the one that would destroy the flowers of this plant. So by the end of the day, it might not be able to produce a good melon. So these practitioners need to understand how are you going to control, to stop these bugs, serangga, that come in and attack the plants or even attack the flowers when it grows, so that the melon could be produced. So does he need to utilize any chemicals, any pesticides or herbicides or any kinds of medicine, or does he need to just confine the places? So these all could utilize the basic research to understand how actually your mechanism or your way can interact or can stop or can avoid these bugs from making destroys on your plants or your flowers. So you get back to the basic, even though you are the one that practitioners, the people who are tremendously have been emphasized on producing the melon output. On the other hand, those people who are basic, you also can start to think about the practical parts. Mostly basic people, they are talking about their fundamental understanding. So they need to engage with the industry. One of the way basic people, basic researcher should have the knowledge or access into industry so that they can contribute to the industry. One of the very good examples would be how the materials of alloy has been produced. Stainless steel is one of the very successful examples where that time it just, you're trying to have two materials that you have to make into one. Then after that, you produce another new material, which is called stainless steel. And then at that time, what it is used for? It is used for the industry because people know that the ferrum or the iron alone can rust it very quickly. So in such a case, the basic people that know how they're going to have a molecular stages of material that can be combined or produced can also have application for industry in order to practice what they have found or what he or she found. So I said one side is you get back to the fundamental to understand. Another one is the basic researcher gets to the industry to go and understand what are the requirements and the problem faced and what are the demands from the industries. So you will bridge very well on both sides actually.
Thank you for your very nice explanation. Before I read another question from the chat box, I would like again to invite all the audience to maybe using the feature right hand to ask a question directly. Maybe if you want to ask in Bahasa also no problem. So we can interact in two ways, it will be much better. Okay, while waiting, actually there's a question related to the systematic literature review. That one actually more towards the qualitative research. What do you think the relation when we are selecting between the qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis? Should we do the every time before we select the research methodology, we should do the systematic literature review first, or what should be done before that, based on your experience?
You mean would like to determine the method, right, from the literature, you mean?
Yes.
Well, when you conduct your literature, you are looking at the piece of work that is being conducted by previous researcher, and right now it is published. Then basically you can learn a lot of things out from there. So I'm talking like, for example, journals, a good published journals, a good quality one. From the studies that they have done, you are able to, replicate the methods that has been used or you might want to suggest another new method so that you can come up might be one, same result, or second might be different results. So as we going through the literature review, it's definitely going to guide us in a lot of aspects, giving you fundamental background information, giving you theory, giving you research method that's been done. You can learn whether the research method is appropriate or any missing things, any limitation they can overcome. Then you can determine your next steps, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Professor Chu. Okay, I would like to again invite the audience to ask a question. And then what will you suggest for example, the master degree and also the bachelor degree, master degree, and also the doctorate degree? What should they do at the beginning before they selecting the research method? Because I think the most common method for the doctorate degree will be the mixed method. Or can we suggest also that the mixed method for all the level of degree for bachelor, master, and also the doctorate, we can apply those the methods, the mixed method, something like that.
Well, I think I gave a lecture about the finding research idea. I think every research, whether you are going for S1, S2, and S3, you need to have a proper research idea at the first stage. And after that, when you get into your different levels of requirement, I'm not really sure about Indonesian's requirement, institution requirement, but maybe my advice is S1, S2, S3 is not only determined by the methodology itself. So if you're thinking S3, you have to utilize a very complicated methods, and then only it shows your competence. I think you have to think twice on this assumption, because fundamentally, what portrays the uniqueness and also the quality of each level, S1, S2, and S3's research, is S1 is mostly on knowledge consumption. So they are utilizing knowledge. That's why they can utilize simple, they can even utilize mixed method. It doesn't really mean mixed method must be complicated, no. It is about appropriateness, about why do you want to use it. Then S2 would be semi, you might be utilized, you consume the knowledge, or you might, you need to generate a little bit of the knowledge. And S3, I think, from the world scale that we follow United Kingdom's standards, right? What we learn from them is that the S3, the PhD will always talk about the theoretical contribution. So over there, it's about, not only knowledge consumption, but on knowledge generation. So from here, method itself is the tool. So if you see my onion, research onion by the end of the day, it doesn't really mean that it must have a mixture. Let me share it again so that you all can understand. It doesn't work like, it must be very complicated. It doesn't really mean in this way. So from the onion that I've shared just now, this onion is an interesting onion that comes from Saunders. You would see that you can go through any kinds of philosophy. You can even go through mono. You can select one. It can be one, then get into data collection and data analysis. Okay, you can combine both. You can have a mixed method. It's really up to your design, And then most importantly is what are the values that you want to bring for your S1, S2, and S3. So I do not think it is determined by method. It is mostly deep about your design, as well as the contribution that you have to comply based on your institutional requirement. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think before I come to the last question, I would like to invite you again. Okay, I think this is for the last question. Some of our students actually finding difficulties to find a research methodology. Which one is actually the most suitable research method for them. Because this here you already suggesting it will be depending on your field of study, research design, or the research topic. But sometimes we can refer to one of the journal as an our guidance. But what will you be suggesting? Actually, this one may be for the bachelor degree that or the doctorate degree. What will you suggest when we are stuck in finding our research methodology? Can we just maybe refer one of the journal or previous research and blindly follow, or we can maybe modify some of the research method based on the similar research?
I think there are two parts over here. The first one, if you refer to the journals, you are fundamentally get into the understanding of what other method has been used before. Then after that, they can complete their research. If you ask me, what would be the best way? I think I still believe, it is still grounded on your research that you have at your first idea. Because the idea itself will try to tell you whether this is, something that new, something that currently happens, something that you want to establish. It will relate to your research design by the end. So you have to understand is you cannot ban it. That's why this lecture it cannot be conducted with 1.5 hours. It has to be 2-3 lectures to understand, because each of it has its own logic. For example, if exploratory, you have to have the prompt of going for qualitative. And if evaluative, you want to evaluate, you prompt to do on quantitative. Or if you design on explanatory, you want to relate with the variables, you definitely need to use quantitative. So you actually, it is not mix and match. Instead, it is the nature of the research that you have already designed in your mind, because it has some logic and some philosophy. As I mentioned, the philosophy itself will tell you which types of method that you like to go for. So I think gets back to the fundamental to understand first, then after that you will know which one will be more suitable to you.
Okay, thank you very much for your very nice explanation. Okay, I think that will be the last question because we already are running out of time as well. Once again, thank you to Professor Chiu for my amazing inspiration. Before ending this session, and I will hand over to our MC, let me read some of the conclusion. So for the common research methodology in your field or our field, it will be have a research method which is qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, and also the mixed method research. When we need to choose based on our field of study, research philosophy such as epistemology, ontology, and also its axiology, and the research design as well, exploratory, explanatory, descriptive, and also the evaluative research. And also back to the research topic. What is your research topic? How understand you are about your research topic, and then how you generate your question. And finally, about the methodological choices. And today we already learned so many things about how to create our better research and also journal from Associate Professor Dr. Chu. And then I think this will end our session. Well, I am Vivi. That's all from me. I hope you are having a good time. Have a great rest of your day and a happy breakfasting. I will hand over to Miss Dewi. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivi.
Thank you very much, Prof. Chu, for the inspiring lecture today. And thank you, Ms. Vivi, for conducting this amazing session. Please give applause to our inspiring speaker and amazing moderator by using the Zoom action feature for today's empowering session. Now, I think I would like to invite the host to share screen. Thank you. So this is certificate for Prof. Chu as our gratitude for today's session. Thank you very much, Professor, for your availability today in providing the session. For the next certificate, I will present it for Miss Vivi. Thank you very much, Miss Vivi, for your time, for your effort today. It's really great. And then before we part, I would like to inform you that we will still have future agendas on R2SEP for which will be conducted on 21st April 2022. We will announce about the speaker and also the moderator, of course, like 1 week before. And you can see it on the poster we are showing you right now. You can check it on our Instagram pages. And then before we end today's session, I would like to invite everyone to show their face to take a picture. Come on. I finally found some faces here. Thank you very much for today's. So I will make a countdown and please be ready. And I will take your picture, and I think it will take a while. So please smile. We don't know where are you in the screen. So keep smiling for 9 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I'll take a picture. Smile, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Next one. Smile, 1, 2, 3. Next one. Smile, 1, 2, 3. Number 4. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you. Next one, number 5. Thank you. Number 6. I think number 5 and number 6 is already only the profile picture, so I will not take any picture anymore. Okay. Thank you very much for today's. We have finished the group photo. I would like to remind all participants to fill the feedback form provided in the Zoom chat room. The participant who will get time for it is the participant who comes on time during this event until the end and also fill the feedback form. Finally, we have reached the end of today's R2SEP, and we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience during the session for me as the master of ceremony and also the committee. We will see you again on the 21st of April. Once again, thank you everyone for joining the session. Thank you the speaker, Prof. Chu, and also the moderator, Ms. Vivi, for the inspiring session. Good evening, and stay safe and healthy, and bye-bye. Thank you, Prof. Chu. Thank you, Ms. Vivi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Chu. Thank you,
Thank you everyone for coming today.
Happy Mubarak.
Thank you, Prof.
Bye-bye.
I will keep the Zoom open for a few minutes to give time for the participants to fill the feedback form.